At Soul, we do things differently. While most big DC firms hire any person willing to work for minimum wage, we hire real community organizers. For us, it isn't about short-term profit. It's about training the right people who are passionate about the movement we are building and giving them the adequate training and support that they need, not just to knock a door, but to actually flip voters across the country. We understand that the conversations we have at the door make a lasting impact. It's not something we take lightly. People are 7 times more likely to go out and vote if they have a good face-to-face conversation. That's powerful. The power is in our hands to educate our communities, to register new voters, to get progressive candidates on the ballot, and to ultimately change our future. We don't have time to waste.
Okay, so we're going to get started. Hi, everyone. Welcome to Soul Strategy's second live webinar, where we empower you with insight and our expertise on how to run a efficient and winning campaign. My name is Ryan Vasquez. I'm the director of Soul's brand new New Jersey office, where we're going to be running a lot of our New York and New Jersey races from. And right now, we're actually engaged in a live national phone bank. We have contracts across the country where we've been calling all day. We actually still have some canvassers here on the premises who are finishing up their calls. So we're actually going to be able to give you guys a demonstration on what that looks like. Today, we're going to talk about how to run an effective and cost-efficient live voter poll that will give you the data and empower you to win. So first, just a little bit about who we are. Soul Strategies creates powerful, progressive, and people-powered campaigns across the United States. We're built by real field organizers who are passionate about the progressive movement. So one thing that I like to say, just like a difference that I like to mark out, is that we are not consultants. We never call ourselves consultants. We don't consider ourselves to be in the consulting business. Instead, we are actually a political organization made of real field organizers and real progressives who are bought into the movement and who want to be a part of your campaign, whether that is helping you run the entire thing in every aspect, or just filling in the little gaps where we can. We want to get progressives into seats. That is our number one prerogative and our number one goal. So that's why we offer free strategy calls and free webinars like this. And of course, we are always looking to get involved in your campaigns in a deeper way. So hopefully this just gives you a little bit of an introduction about who we are, our field philosophy, the services that we do, and we're looking to create a relationship with everyone on the call. So because we're going to be talking about live polling today, we thought that it would be neat to just throw a few poll questions up for the audience. This would give us, some insight that we would take back on who exactly we're speaking to, what your experience is. It would allow us to be able to follow up with you, with tailored services and, really just treat everybody on a case-by-case basis. So if you guys could take some time now to just fill out the 2 brief questions on your screen. So again, my name is Ryan Vasquez. I'm the New Jersey Field Director, and I have about 6-7 years in the business running campaigns. I was a volunteer and just a politically motivated person long before that. And I'm joined by our all-star crew of captains and field operatives who are at your disposal for your campaign. Each one of my colleagues are absolute experts in the field. And I'm going to give them a brief moment to introduce themselves, starting with our Director of Client Services, Lori Ann Gonzalez.
Hey everyone, it's really good to be here. I'm really happy to be interacting with you guys today. Just to give you a little details about myself, first and foremost, like you said, my name is Lori Ann. I actually have been doing field work for 9 years. I started out as a canvasser. Currently with Soul Strategies, I am the Director of Client Services. In short detail, I play a key role in basically monitoring and managing day-to-day activities, making sure that everything is going smoothly and you don't have any concerns. My main goal is to maximize your satisfaction and ultimately cultivate great relationship with all you guys. Yeah. Amir?
Hello, everyone. My name is Amir. I am a director of the New York Field Office. I strictly focus on canvassing and training recruitment. I have been a volunteer as well as a canvasser for more than 4 years. I have been blessed with the opportunity to work with many campaigns and candidates, as well as run many campaigns as well. I strictly focus on canvasser development. It is my mission to make sure that not only canvassers understand the importance of grassroots organization, but exactly what those factors include. So it's very important that canvassers not only understand effective and proper ways of canvassing, but proper safety guidelines and extreme fundamentals and cohesiveness while working on the field.
What's up, guys? My name is Nate, and essentially for my entire career, I've spent my time working and living with people from wildly different backgrounds and cultures, sometimes even across the planet. And all that in pursuit of that more equitable future that we're all aiming for. And I'm excited to be a field captain here at Seoul because, I get to continue my work, but I could also use my own background as a tool and a resource to help organize and build up some of these communities that you guys will be running.
So let's talk about voter polling and why it even matters. So campaign starts, it's the first week. What are some of the first things that we do? We call around and look for cheap rent offices. We hire field directors, field captains, our core staff. We talk to designers, we get our colors ready, we get those kind of visual graphics ready. And one of the main first things that we do day one is we procure a data set. And that data set is going to come to you either through Minivan or whatever platform you use. And oftentimes on small, low budget races, that data set comes from your local board of elections, and it's a giant, ugly Excel spreadsheet. But regardless, that data on the first day, I like to say it's either going to be the maze that you spend every single shift in the field until election day, trying to drag yourself out of and comprehend and understand simultaneously while you're campaigning, which is difficult. Or that data set is going to be fashioned into a compass that is going to guide you and inform you on how you should campaign and how you should approach people every day until E-Day. What we're looking to do is show you how an accurate and intensive voter poll will actually fashion that data set into your compass. Accurate data is important. It is either going to make or break your campaign. Your victory is determined by how you build your data through targeted and effective voter outreach. Before you even start connecting to voters and outreaching to them on behalf of your candidate, advocating specifically, get out and vote for so-and-so. One of the things that you can do that is very foundational to understanding who is in your constituency is running a poll. So basically there are three main types of polling questions, and all questions generally fall into one of these three categories, although we're not limited to them. Those three categories are head-to-head polling, issue-based testing, and open-ended questions.
All right, so head-to-head questions are the type of poll questions that you may think of when you hear the word poll, right? If there's an election happening today, would you rather vote for person A or person B? And by doing these kind of specific polling campaigns early on, even before the election starts, you're going to be a few steps ahead of your competition, because while they're out there during the campaigning season, collecting all their data, organizing it on the fly, you're going to have it all ready for you. You're going to have it organized the way you need it to be organized. And that's going to be able to make your own rollout for your own Get Out the Vote campaign that more smooth and effective. Additionally, by starting these kind of campaigns early on, you're going to expand the breadth of information that you can collect. So we're not just going to be asking people, would you rather vote for person A or person B? We could get out in these communities and prompt them to rate certain candidates on certain criteria. So let's say you're doing a polling campaign and you're realizing that the community would rather have person A over person B. With this type of polling, you could also gather information about how they feel about candidate B. So maybe, yeah, they want person A, but they still think person B has a 4 out of 5 leadership rating. So that kind of information is vital to a winning campaign, and having that early is going to allow you to hit the ground running versus everybody else who is going to be playing catch up.
Issue-based questions establish groundwork very, very early. This is the guide to your platform by showing what voters care about and why. So when you get to these questions, you're able to get the personal interaction that you would like and see exactly what issue that the voters have and want to express to you. An example of an issue-based question would be, how do you feel about your public safety? Do you feel as if it's safe for you and your kids to be out past 7 to 8 o'clock at night when you're coming home from the park? How do you feel about your housing issues? Do you feel as if the condition that this building is under also reflect on how much you're paying for your rent? Things like this exactly gets the interactions and feelings and issues on how the voters feel about what they're going through in the community.
So open-ended questions. These are my favorite type of polling questions. They add a human touch to polling that you can only do with live phone bankers. So let's get into that a little bit. Let's say you take the other route. Let's say you hire a DC pollster. The first thing that they're going to do is cash your check and make sure that it clears. And then after that, they are going to find the cheapest robocalling system that they can backload your data set into, and send out a call everybody in the constituency within the same 5 minutes. And a robot is going to ask them to press 1 for yes or 2 for no. Open-ended questions add that human touch because canvassers actually record down the data in long form. And really, when you go back and you read the results of open-ended questions over a period of time, they speak to the quality of life and to the experience that voters in the constituency actually have. And we can get really creative with these. That's why I love them. So like one thing that I always like to ask, it's in my tool belt whenever I'm running a campaign and I'm starting it with a poll, which generally I do. I ask something in terms of the fact of if you could tell the governor or the president or the senator or the mayor one thing, what would it be? And when we ask those kinds of questions, we are stepping into the world of the voter. The answers are plotted out on a spectrum of I love my governor, I love my mayor, I love my council person, to I think that my council person needs to be replaced. Recently, we were conducting a poll, and I happened to be on the phone, and I asked a constituent, if you could tell the mayor one thing, what would it be? And their response was to resign immediately. Really, we only get to these types of emotional responses when a human being is asking people about their experience. I then followed up and said, well, why would that be? What is the reason why you would want the mayor to resign immediately? And the person started talking about how taxes have gone up steadily in their neighborhood over the years, while services from the city have gone down and infrastructure is crumbling. And I really was able to step into the world and the experience of that voter. Now I can take that back to the client and go over that with them and talk about how people on this specific street, in this specific ward, in this specific neighborhood are having a certain experience over people on the other side of town. And that is what we mean when we talk about making sense of your data set. We get names, we get addresses, phone numbers, emails, but we don't get ratings on how people feel about where they live. And the way that we get down to the bottom of that is through a lot of these open-ended questions. So the value of being able to do this with live phone bankers is that we are IDing people while we are polling them, because we're going to take this data back and weaponize it in order to get you elected. So, for example, one thing that we do by conducting this method is we prepare ourselves to be able to filter out the negative IDs from a poll, for example. That way, when door knockers are going out and knocking on doors, and canvassers are making second and third passes through the universe. This time campaigning, not with a poll question. Our hard no's, our unconvinceables are already pulled out. That saves you money, and it also allows us to make our passes faster. And that is just one of the ways that voter polling is actually very efficient in terms of building towards your field program.
Why is field important? Field is not just important, it's literally the most important. We know that field is basically collecting data, and data is crucial to how we're gonna take our next step moving forward. It's really shown that direct voter contact really draws people out to the polls to go vote. And just having a live human one-on-one conversation really does turn a voter's perspective and actually make them want to vote. Sometimes people don't want to vote because they feel demotivated. So somebody actually coming to their door and talking to them really pushes them to actually go out on that day. Is there anything you would like to add, Ryan, to why field is important?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think you said it best. Field is the most important thing that you can do. I think people oftentimes think that field is just campaigning. And that would be to analogize it, that would say people think that field is the mouth of your campaign. But the truth is that field is also the eyes and ears of your campaign. Well-trained canvassers bring back data, and they really are able to build out the circumstances of the race to let you know how you're doing in real time. And that is something that is just vital. Absolutely nothing can replace human contact from your campaign. The insinuation when a well-trained voter knocks on the door is that there are hundreds of more like them, even if that is not true. One of the ways that your campaign looks absolutely organized and ready to win is by appearing that it has an army of people that are out there voting for them. And now you could either have an army of people and get the job done that way, or you could have 5 really well-trained canvassers, 10 really well-trained canvassers who are going out doing the same effective kind of work in order to advance you. But I will say one thing is that if we're ever spending money on anything on a campaign, the first thing that we should be spending money on is field. By far, that is the most important thing that you can do is actually get the live bodies on the doors. We win by knocking. And people try to reinvent campaigns all the time, but the fact of the matter is that we win by knocking. And that is how to do it. So I will always be an advocate of field. I'll always say that that is, the most important thing that you can do. So let's talk about your win number. Win numbers to me are the first sign that a campaign is actually serious about winning, and that it has looked not just into the technique of throwing everything at the wall and seeing what sticks. It is the baseline and the foundation to your field strategy. So the simple equation that we start off with to calculate your win number is the number of votes needed to win times 3. And the reason why we multiply it times 3 is just because we know that every smiling face at the door that says that they're going to support us or says that they're even going to get out to the polls in the first place, they do not actually convert and do that. So we want to drag as wide a net as possible and talk to at least 3 people for every 1 person that we're going to want to get out and vote. But that number of votes that you need to win is also determined by, for example, historical data. Is this a gubernatorial year in the constituency where you're running for mayor? Is somebody running for Senate? It also takes into account the popularity of your opposition. Are you running against an incumbent who is guaranteed at least 8,500 votes in every year that they've ever run? Or even like global circumstances. Is there a pandemic that is going on that is affecting voter turnout, either dampening it or boosting it through vote by mail efforts? All of this is something that is hyper local to your race and is something that we should be considering when factoring our win number and exactly what we need to do to win. Now let's talk about voter conversion rates. So the voter conversion rate, when somebody knocks on someone's door, when they have direct contact with a human reminding them that there is an election, they're at least 20 times more likely to vote. This translates into about a 9-point boost for candidates at max, which is huge. That's a king-making statistic. Now, voter conversion rates are tricky because just because somebody is more likely to get out and vote doesn't mean that they're necessarily going to get out and vote for you. So what actually converts a voter into a supporter is having a well-trained and well-prepared canvasser staff. Because if we have people who are getting out who are sloppy, who don't know what they're saying, who aren't prepared, right? That is not just not converting that voter into supporter. Oftentimes what we're doing is creating awareness that there's an election, and at the same time creating an awareness that they don't want to vote for whoever just sent that person to their door. On the other side, when we have a well-trained staff that is actually going out and that is prepared, and that through polling knows the issues to talk about to this voter in this area, of this demographic, of this age group, we are preparing that canvasser to create a supporter. And that is obviously what we want to do with every touch that we make, is not just remind somebody to get out and go vote, but to convert them into somebody who's going to vote for us. So now this is something I've been waiting for all day. I'm very excited. I'm going to get to show you guys a demonstration of what our live phone bank looks like. This room was much, much busier earlier. We're on the East Coast now, so the callers that are left here are just wrapping up calls in other time zones, but I did ask them to stay back a little bit, just so that way they could show you guys what exactly they do. And then we have a treat for you. We're actually going to pull a canvasser off the table, bring them over here and have them run through a script with me so you guys can see exactly what a live poll sounds like. So just bear with me as I walk across the room and give you guys a look at what our team looks like. Here, after your call, can you give it? Thank you. Okay, so those are our phone bankers who are left here for the day. Like I said, they're wrapping up their calls right now, but I just pulled somebody off the table and we're going to go through a practice script right now. Just that way you guys can understand some of the language and really hear what this looks like in action. So this is one of our canvassing experts, Samira, and she is going to show us exactly what a live poll sounds like.
All right, so start out. Hi, my name's Samira. I'm calling from Mickey Mouse Clubhouse for the People. You have a few moments to answer some questions regarding Disneyland.
Yes.
All right, let's get started. So first, we're going to start by ranking our local leaders from a scale of 5 to 1, 1 being worst leadership, 5 being best leadership. All right, so how would you rate the leadership of Donald Duck on a scale of 1 to 5?
I would rate Donald a 3.
Okay, thank you. Next question would be, using the same scale, how would you rank the leadership of Mickey Mouse?
I'd rate Mickey Mouse a 5. I'm a
Okay,
fan.
perfect, thank you. How would you rate the leadership of Scrooge McDuck?
Oh, Scrooge gets a 1.
Okay, thank you so much. So my last question is, who do you think is to blame for the recent increase of the candy tax that affected our family and everyone around us?
I would blame the Scrooge administration for the increase of the candy tax.
All right, thank you so much. And my last question before I leave is, what would you like to tell the governor, Walt Disney, before I go?
I think that park admission should be free on Sundays.
All right, thank you so much. Have a great day. I appreciate your time.
All right. Well, so that's what a live poll looks like. Thank you very much, Samira. I
You're
appreciate
welcome.
that. That was
Thank
a very,
you.
very good round of applause
Thank
for you.
Have a great day.
Okay, so that was just an example of what a live poll looks like. And of course, that script is very malleable. It is something that we can change and tailor to the specificities of your campaign. It is just a conversation away, and you can have a poll just like this working for you. So now I'll open the floor up to any questions from our audience. I'd really like to take this opportunity to workshop some of the issues that you guys may be having, some of the questions that you have, and really get into it with you guys. This is a great opportunity for you guys to get some real insights on what exactly we do and how we can help you. Do you have any questions?
There was a question that came in earlier from Anne. How do you work with inaccurate data from party provided voter builder data to identify AAPI voters? So currently their data in PA doesn't accurately identify AAPI voters by language or ethnic group. The only way to identify them is as a group, manually export and manually disaggregate. This makes phone banking or polling with linguistic specificity not possible without the manual workaround.
So that's a great question, Anne, and it speaks to why we do polling before we do campaigning. So not only are we getting data out of the poll that, with the accurate data that we do have and the touches that we do have, not only are we executing a poll on those voters, but before we actually start campaigning, calling through the universe once, for example, tells us whose numbers are disconnected and who we're only going to be able to communicate with by knocking or through mail. Also, it is an opportunity to start recording, languages. If there's a language barrier when a pollster calls, having that established then is a much better use of your resources than establishing it while you're campaigning, which speaks to the analogy of the data being the maze that you try to, drag yourself out. When you're 5 days before election day, that is not when you want to be finding out that the person on the corner of Franklin and 4th speaks only Spanish or only Chinese, or has certain limitations in communicating. What you want to do early and as early as possible is clean up that data list. So this is exactly what polling does. Polling, it is kind of that rough run through. You get data when you can from the people who are able to answer, and then how to approach everyone else in terms of the actual execution of campaigning when it really matters.
All right, a follow-up question from Anne again. What tips do you have for linguistically specific polling questions? Anne is interested in phone banking in target language to AAPI voters.
Can you run that by me again, please, Karina?
What tips do you have for linguistically specific polling questions? And Anne said that she's interested in phone banking in target language to AAPI voters.
So oftentimes when we call somebody and we encounter that language barrier, the conversation is very choppy. It doesn't go by very, very well. I think that it is a good opportunity to pivot and say, look, we're going to want to call you back. What is the language that we should best approach you with? I think that it is important to directly confront the voter in that and say, look, we're trying to outreach you. Should we find somebody who speaks Spanish who can call you, something to that extent? Most people who are registered to vote are at the very least able to communicate that to you. But that, again, that is why we do this. That is why polls are foundational to the data. I would rather always have that chunky, clunky conversation pre-campaigning when we're trying to clean up the data set than to actually go in and be campaigning to somebody and then realize that there is that limitation there.
All right. Hello, Ryan. I have a question.
Hi, how are you?
Hi. Yeah. What is the normal call answer rate for polls? How many people answer the poll in full?
So right now with the polls that we have going, we're using van lists, and we know that van lists are notorious for having inaccurate data. Right now we're pulling about a 60% connect rate, and then of those connect, we have a 50% answer rate of people who take the poll all the way through to the end.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. That's a great question from Eli. Thank you very much, Eli. Yes, we will. So Seoul is infamous for building the team that you need. So if somebody comes to us and says, hey, we are looking for people who only speak Japanese, we will go out and we will find Japanese progressives in your area who are looking to work. That is what we do. We build tailored teams to what the specificities of your campaigns are and what their needs are. So that was a great question. Thank you very much.
Another question from Anne. Have we ever run polls in different languages? Because that was important in the last election in PA, and the Biden campaign used phone bankers in multiple AAPI languages. Have we ever run polls in languages other than English or Spanish?
So right now, one of the constituencies that we're calling in New Jersey has a heavy population of both Spanish speakers and Polish speakers. So when we were building the team for this, not only did we make sure that our scripts were well translated by natives, we also made sure that we had native speakers on the team. The team is trained that when they encounter somebody with that language barrier that falls into those two categories, because generally in this constituency, people who aren't speaking English are falling into those two categories, they pass the phone over to that person and they're able to save the call right in the moment.
Actually, earlier this year as well, I had managed a phone banking for Bilingual. So yes, we have.
Any more questions?
Another follow-up question. Do you find a different answer rate for bilingual polling compared to just using like one language?
I think there is a slight drop off just because, again, like those initial touches are a little clunky. So oftentimes I think, maybe 2 out of every 10 of these callers who we speak to in English, and then they have to communicate to us that they don't speak English. They'll just hang up the phone in frustration. I think it's something that people are used to doing, getting somebody who doesn't speak their language to hanging up. But that drop off is very slight. I think that when the phone is quickly passed and the canvassers are trained to do so and say, hold on one moment, I have a Polish speaker right next to me. The voter is actually ingratiated by the fact that the team has somebody Polish on staff or has somebody, who is a Spanish speaker on staff. I think that oftentimes campaigns are built for one language. So when we're approaching people, it is actually very refreshing for them to hear that somebody else is speaking their language and is engaging them democratically in that way. So I think that actually, even though there is that slight drop off, the touches that we do make to people in their native language mean that much more, and it makes up for that for sure. we have anybody else?
Yeah. What are the advantages? What are the advantages? In doing polling before voter outreach begins?
So really, every aspect of it is an advantage. I mean, A, you're moving through your universe, and you're getting data back that you are able to then relate to the campaign. So for example, if we do a few issue-based questions, and we get ratings on how people feel about, free education, healthcare, crime, and infrastructure in their neighborhood, we will learn that in some areas of town, the voters care way more about infrastructure than they do about taxes or healthcare, right? This allows us to then, when we do a pass through those neighborhoods, prepare canvas teams to talk through the lens of, high taxes, if that's what applies here, or through infrastructure, if that would apply, if that is what applies there. So that connects back to your voter conversion rate, right? Because we know that every live touch makes people more likely to vote, but a sloppy touch makes them less likely to vote for us. So by using accurate polling data, we are able to not only prepare canvassers about where they're going to, but to say, listen, you're going to be talking to people today who care about free education. So lead with a free education pitch. That way you're speaking their language from the moment that they open the door.
Another question from Anne. Is there an area in our company is interested in growing?
We're always looking for field operatives. We're always interested in growing. So somebody can definitely reach out to you after this call, and we'd love to have a conversation. Do you have anyone else? Well, all right, guys, this was very, very fun. Thank you guys for participating. I really appreciate that. Thank you for the team for getting out here and doing this today. You guys know how to reach us. Please schedule a free strategy call with us today. The email is on your screen. You could also, get in contact with us through the phone number on our website. But we look forward to hearing from all you guys. Listen, like I said, we want to be a part of your campaign, whether it is a major part or a small part to fill in the gaps. We want to put progressives in seats, and that is really our prerogative. So please reach out to us. We're looking to create these relationships and conversations. But I want to thank you for coming out to our free webinar. We're going to have another one in the next few weeks. So look out for an email on how you can sign up for that, and bring your friends.